Alan Jevons, Archdeacon of Brecon. We're going to share with you now a brief overview of the work of Faith and Families, or the Diocesan Board for Social Responsibility. If you want a theological justification for our work, I suppose you'll find it in a sort of combination of the aggressive railings of some of the Old Testament prophets against the injustices of their society, alongside some of the parables of Jesus, the sheep and the goats, the parable of the Good Samaritan, parable of the talents. You'll also find it in Dietrich Bonhoeffer's belief that the church was her true self only when she gave herself away and existed for others. The Children's Society, which excites quite a lot of attention in meetings in a negative way, they celebrated the new millennium by leaving Wales in the year 2000-2001. And they left behind them a lot of projects with families, high and dry. The then Social Responsibility Officer was given £2,000 by the bishop and asked, put that in your back pocket and see what you can salvage of the Children's Society work. And from these really very small and insignificant beginnings has grown a huge tree of care, love and support for those who suffer poverty and are in need and in increasing need. And the care and the love is its own reward. It doesn't ask for a payback. It's about the kingdom of God. In my day job, I do tend to spend quite a bit of time working with groups that look backwards to a dream that they wish could return. In contrast, I found that Faith and Families constantly looks forwards and responds to the needs of our communities as they are and not as we wish they would be. I spend a lot of time working with groups that centre around their buildings as if this was the be-all and end-all of their life. In contrast, Faith and Families centres around people. Our strapline is making a difference to our communities. And we are proud that this strapline is just not words, but is evidenced in our actions and in the way that people feel about us. And again, in my day job, I find the prevailing attitude so many times is that something cannot be done. In contrast, the prevailing attitude of Faith and Families is that where there is a need, and there is therefore a vision of what can be done, then it often is done. One of our Christmas carol events, carol services, a couple of years ago, which has in the past been half an hour of organised chaos, I would say, and yet full of life. I have a memory sitting there watching our then Archbishop, Archbishop John, in his purple cassock and silver cross, and in his right hand, his episcopal crozier. And he was sharing a carol sheet with a young mother on his left, who was there sporting tight black sparkly leggings, a equally tight white plunging t-shirt, and lots of tattoos all down her arms, Guns N' Roses blazing down her left arm. And you sat there, you watched these two worlds coming together and sharing a carol, two worlds that really, in some respects, didn't understand each other. And yet that building bridges is, I think, the gift of Faith and Families. And introduce our CEO, Cherie.
Thank you. I love Wales. I was born in Swansea and I've never left and I don't intend to. I want it to be somewhere where everyone thinks it's a great place to grow, live, work, play and raise a family. But it's not. There's a saying that it takes a village to raise a child. I believe that that is true. It takes many people to teach a child all that they should know. Proverbs 22 verse 6 says, "Start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it." But I want you to imagine, and I know it's after lunch and this is the worst slot, but for 60 seconds or more if you dare, just think of the things that I'm about to say. Imagine growing up, never feeling that you belong. In a home where your parents do not have enough money to feed you, keep you warm, clean and clothed properly. 31% of children in Wales were living in relative poverty before the pandemic. So you begin to assume that you are not worthy of the basic human rights. 32.7% of children in Swansea, where our work is centred, are living in deep poverty. That's statistics in July 2022. The consequences then filter through at school, where you stand out because you haven't got enough, where you're tired because it was cold last night. It is estimated that over 45 million families will be in fuel poverty by January 2023. Literally chilled to the bone, an old saying my grandmother used to say that I never believed I would be repeating in 2022. You couldn't sleep because your anxious parents were arguing, and you're hungry because there wasn't enough money to buy for breakfast, and the dinner lady tells you you haven't got money for the items that your mates have chosen and to put them back on the trolley. At least 13,325 Swansea children in 2020 were living in families where they are 4 times more likely to be behind on their bills. Then you're overwhelmed because you just do not fit in. So you get angry and frustrated, which leaves you being told that you've got behaviour issues, that you're challenging and a nuisance, and you don't feel included or valued. In Wales on July the 15th, 2022 alone, 12,970 children, primary school age, were not in school. The same day, 15,797 secondary school children were off. That's 28,767 children in Wales in one day this year that didn't attend school. That's their basic right to an education. Envisage your formative years, your childhood, being one that you were not cherished, where you begin to develop a lack of ability to set a standard of what you really deserve, where trauma is normalised and you live at a constant state of high alert, which will affect your physical and mental health for the rest of your life. With that picture in your head of those children whose brains are growing rapidly, whose personalities are being formed, whose experiences are being locked into their memories forever, move forward into their adulthood, and just think, if we don't do something and find a solution to make a tangible outcome to their lives right now, what will their adulthoods be like? Our world is not starting children off in the way that they should go. More than 1 in 3 children in Wales are currently, right now, living in real deep poverty. They're beginning to believe that trauma, chaos, and living in crisis is the normal way of life. Faith in Families walks alongside these children and families that are living through some of the most challenging circumstances in our communities. Our vision is a diocese where every single child can reach their potential. We want every human being to have the possibility to succeed, accomplish, triumph, and become their best version. Childhood is a golden part of life, and we can never go back. You cannot revisit childhood. The magnitude of the type of experience an individual will have an ongoing influence on their physical and mental health and their future contribution to our world and to Wales and to everything that we all live in. We want Wales to be filled with happy, healthy, curious individuals who are valued and validated. Experiences in childhood help us shape our future and are vital. Charities like ours don't change lives. However, we are lucky and privileged enough to walk alongside people who change their own lives with our support. Building brighter futures together, rooted in our communities, we nurture growth, cultivating fairer opportunities for all, especially during childhood. Our culture is to promote, instill, and demonstrate our values, which are of care, compassion, aspiration, respect, and empathy for everyone, our teams, our communities, our partners and funders, regardless of their faith, sexuality, race, or status. We want everyone to have a good childhood. How wonderful would it be if we lived in a world where these values where we all had these values of care and treated each other with kindness? What an amazing world it would be for us all to live in. So what are we and where did we part? As Alan said, we were established in 1999 when the Children's Society left Wales, at the beginning renting rooms in a small centre with 2 members of staff and a budget of £2,000. Now in 2022, 23 years later, we have 7 projects having a tremendous impact on lives of thousands of people each year with a budget of nearly £1 million. We now have 42 members of staff and have an incredible impact across our diocese. We've had an amazing year, despite the ongoing challenges and changes and restrictions and anxieties and personal and professional dilemmas our staff have lived through the pandemic as well as everybody else. We have 4 centres. Bonnymaen Community Cwtch first opened its doors in 1999. The centre was originally situated in Kevin Hengoed School and is now in the Old Vicarage in Mansell Road in Bonnymaen. Last year, we delivered 101 activities out of school time with 956 attendees. We increased the number of children we worked with by 374%. We also increased our holiday play scheme sessions, delivering 183 sessions and delivered it to 3,720. This meant that we reached over 375 families, but the best statistic is we brought laughter, joy and fun to 587 children. We also delivered 155 toddler sessions with 948 attendees. That was just in Bonnymaen. So then we move on to Clace. Clace Community Centre opened in 2006 in the Gwalia building. This year we facilitated 80 after-school sessions and we were able to provide 181 play scheme sessions, which was an increase of 1,746. We supported 301 families with a team of 3. Coming out of the pandemic, bringing laughter, play, friendship and community connection, we worked with 485 children in that centre alone. So then we move on to Tylos. Originally based in Penplas, it's now an £1 million development in St Tylos Church. We increased our after-school provision by 41% this year, working with 360 children and 42 families. We delivered 127 sessions, working with 1,904 children in that centre. During the first year of the pandemic, we worked alongside 31 families intensely. That's just St Tylos. So then we go on to our other projects. So that, as well as our 4 centres, we have Tylos Tots Daycare. That last year, we delivered 28,252 hours of childcare. This year, we have delivered 48,260 hours of childcare to 98 children, ensuring their parents had affordable, quality childcare and they were able to access work, training or support. There's more. St John's Wellbeing Centre has been running nearly a year now, 10 years, in the old primary school just opposite the cathedral. And that operates a food co-op, gardening clubs, kids cookery clubs, as well as hosting a food bank and a lead clinic, all with 1 member of staff. We also have our Inspiring Futures project, which delivers adult engagement, working with one-to-one with over 200 individuals away from work last year. Out of those 200 individuals, we delivered 460 different certificates, getting them back to work. And a consultation exercise showed that 164 stated that their confidence had increased greatly. We facilitated 13 team around the support groups, referred 55 families to different food supports, and made 526 wellbeing check-ins. And there's more. Children's mental health issues have been increasingly colossal through the pandemic, and our Brighter Futures team is having an increase in demand. During 2021, we were working with 12 primary schools across Swansea. Now we are working with over 30 primary schools across Swansea, delivering one-to-one basic support valuable with play therapy. We use design and play. We have they've been on suicide prevention. The list of training that our staff has been incredible. We delivered 6,360 hours of intensive research play therapy to 222 children just last year. These are children whose parents have committed suicide, that parents are in prison, that mums and dads have split up, that they've run away, that they're with their grandparents, and they're hiding hamburgers in their pockets to take home because they're hungry. We've also increased our group work by 329% in 5 local primary schools, working with children that were excluded and are about to be delisted. In 2021, we worked with over 2,222 children, 1,632 families, and delivered 873 bespoke play sessions in our 4 centres with just 40 staff. 86% of our parents stated that we helped them enjoy their children. 96% of children said that they were now able to talk about their worries. 92% said that they had learnt ways to control their anger and frustration. And 98% of children stated that they were more confident and they wanted to go back to school. So those are just statistics. There are loads more on our website, and there are tons more stories, heartbreaking stories. Stories of childhoods that are being changed by crisis that children have no chance of changing. So I appreciate your time in listening to me this afternoon after lunch, which is really hard. I hope you heard the reasons why we need your support. And I hope you would like to come along, visit our centres, get to know our teams, get to know our families, see how you can develop that work. Come and work alongside us. Bring the faith into the families. We are touching so many different lives every single solitary day. And we want our children and our families to grow up in communities that are full of compassion, aspiration, respect, and empathy. And I want to live in a world like that, and I think you do, and I want them to too. And I think our work is the gospel in action.
Well, they came to the end of a curacy in the Manchester diocese. I remember an interview with the then Bishop of Middleton, and I expressed an interest in moving into rural ministry. His response was not positive. You don't want to go to rural ministry, he said. You want to go to Oldham. Well, I didn't want to go to Oldham. I wanted to go into rural ministry. And I took his comment as advice rather than a diktat, and I came down to Hereford. I discovered, in fact, that he was wrong. His diktat was very much aligned with his statement that, and I remember him saying this, if you go into rural ministry, Alan, you'll just gradually go to sleep. Well, maybe he was right on that score, I don't know. But I certainly didn't find rural ministry the way that he pictured it. I discovered clergy who were passionate about their ministry and deeply involved in their communities. I discovered that although church attendance was not great in absolute terms in most communities, in terms of its spread and its influence and its impact, it was really very deep indeed. 10 people breaking bread and sharing faith in a village of 100 or so had a much deeper impact, almost incarnation, than a congregation of 50, say, in a population of 10,000 or whatever. I discovered that there was a real palpable relationship between people, land, and the church. There are problems of rural society. Transport, well, we know them well. Transport, withdrawal of village services, rural housing. And there are issues for clergy of being pulled into all sorts of directions, trying to spin lots of plates and not let any of them crash to the ground. But going to sleep? No. We're going to listen now to Andrew Perrin, who is the ministerial leader of the West Radnor ministry area, a large geographical, hugely rural part of our diocese, which is centred on Llandrindod Wells.